They never gave us a trial, not even the illusion of one. Just a silent vote, cold, ceremonial, and absolute. The Galactic Council chamber shimmered in sterile gold, filled with creatures who thought themselves gods. Tall, translucent beings with hollow eyes and tongues that slithered like snakes. They spoke of balance, of galactic unity. But when it came to humans, their words always circled back to one: problem. We weren't the strongest, or the oldest, or the most advanced. But we were something they'd never learned to contain. We were driven, and drive frightened them. So the vote passed. Unanimous. Earth was to be exiled from the galactic core. Every human world, every trade pact, every treaty, erased overnight. No hearings, no warnings. Just a transmission broadcast across the stars labeling humanity as a contagion, a destabilizing force. We called it the Purge. They called it necessary for peace. I was there when it happened. Commander Ree Kaiden, 37th Fleet, Outer Ring Patrol. I watched as our network went dark. One outpost after another blinked out of existence. Supplies cut off, alliances dissolved, friends turning their guns on us. 26 men died under my command that first week. Not in glorious battle, no. They were executed by the same species we'd once sworn to protect. We had built their colonies, defended their borders, shared our ships, our tech, our lives. And when fear came knocking, they sealed the doors and left us to die in the vacuum. That was their mistake. They thought exile would break us. They forgot what happens when you corner something that evolved by surviving extinction. We didn't die. We adapted. The survivors gathered in the Helix Fringe, a place every sane species avoided. A wasteland of radiation storms, dead stars, and shattered stations. But for us, it was perfect. That's where the Dominion was born. Not from hope, not from peace, from fury. We stopped calling ourselves Earthlings. That word belonged to a world that no longer existed. We became something else. The Forsaken. Soldiers, engineers, smugglers, miners, every one of us cast aside by the galaxy we'd once helped build. We built a new order from scrap and fury. No laws, no politics, only one truth. Never kneel again. I remember the day we found her, buried deep in the orbital graveyard of Thantos 9, an Ark-class carrier, long dead, forgotten since the first Council Wars. Her hull was rusted and scarred, but her bones were strong. We named her the Revenant, because that's what we'd become, the dead risen for vengeance. I didn't promote the smartest or the most charming. I promoted the ones who bled without complaint. Loyalty became our currency. Weakness was recycled into airlock debris. At first, we struck quietly. Supply convoys, mining vessels, fuel depots. The Council called it pirate activity. But it wasn't piracy. It was justice, paid back in oxygen and wreckage. Then came the turning point, when the other exiles began to find us. Abandoned species, mercenaries with nowhere to go, entire colonies forgotten by the Council's golden circle. They came to us, and for the first time, the galaxy's outcasts had a flag. We weren't building revenge anymore. We were building dominion. The first envoy came begging for talks, a trembling diplomat from the Athari cluster. He asked for peace. I didn't even let him disembark. I sent his head back in a cryopod. That's when the whispers began. Humans are back. Humans have a fleet. Humans don't play by Council rules anymore. They thought exile would erase us. Instead, they wrote our legend. They called it exile. We called it awakening. The Revenant drifted through the debris field of the Yarick Belt like a ghost born of vengeance. Her hull groaned with the weight of 100 scavenged parts, patched, reinforced, held together with stubbornness and rage. Every weld was human. Every scar was a promise. We didn't fly by regulations anymore. We flew by wrath. "Commander, incoming signal," Van called from the comms station, his tone sharp. "It's Cora!" That name froze half the bridge. Cora Vale, once our best pilot, sharp as plasma fire, ruthless as the void. 6 months ago, she'd vanished during the Skull raid. We'd written her name into the wall of the lost. "Put her through," I said. The hologram flickered to life, grainy, unstable, haunted. Cora looked older. Her eyes, still a piercing green, carried something heavier now. Guilt and fear. "Ree," she said, skipping the rank. "They're coming for you. The Council, Mercs, even ex-humans. They're calling it a containment mission." My jaw tightened. "You ran," I said. "Why come back now?" Her hologram stuttered as she sighed. "Because they have intel, our intel. The Revenant's schematics, Dominion trade routes, even your station layouts. They're using my father's data. He defected, Ree. He gave them everything, her father. Admiral Drex. One of the last from Earth's military council. The man who helped shape the Dominion's backbone after the Purge. My mentor. My teacher. If he'd defected, this wasn't just betrayal. This was war. I didn't let the rage show. "Where are they striking first?" "Orion's graveyard," she said softly. "They want to isolate you. Hit the Revenant before she can regroup. Please, Ree. You need to disappear." I met her eyes across the flickering feed. "Disappear? Like you did?" Her silence was all the answer I needed. "Stand by," I ordered. The transmission cut to black. Van turned from his console. "Could be a trap." Derek, our weapons chief, scowled. "If she's compromised, she'd have killed us already." I said nothing. I didn't fear death. What I feared was becoming predictable. "The Revenant's armor?" I asked. "Triple reinforced since she left," Derek said. "Even if they've got the old layouts, they'll be punching ghosts." "Then they'll learn the hard way," I muttered, turning to the viewport. The stars ahead were still, too still, the kind of silence only soldiers understand. "They think we've grown soft. That exile made us forget." I smiled without warmth. "Let's remind them who they threw away." Within 6 hours, the Revenant cleared the Yarrick Belt, slingshotting off the inner moon for velocity. We went dark. No pings, no lights, no broadcasts. A ghost, once more. The Orion graveyard wasn't a graveyard in name alone. It was where the galaxy dumped its sins. Broken warships, failed colonies, shattered ideals orbiting a dead star. The radiation there could peel hulls and melt drones. Perfect place for an ambush. When we arrived, we weren't alone. 3 Council destroyers were already sweeping the field, sleek, polished, arrogant. Ships that had never known hunger or loss. 2 cloaked signatures on the flanks, Derek reported. Council spec ops. "Take them out," I said quietly. No noise. No witnesses, pods detached, silent missiles carrying my best killers. The tactical feed lit with brief pulses, then nothing. 2 blips gone from the map. "Targets neutralized," Derek confirmed. "Good," I said. "Now let's send a message." I opened a broad-channel transmission to the Council fleet. My voice cut through the void, cold and deliberate. "This is Commander Ree Kaiden of the Dominion. You've already taken our homes and our dead. This place will now become yours." No reply. Cowards never talk when they believe they've already won. "Fire on my mark!" But we didn't start with torpedoes. They'd expect that. "Activate Wraith Protocol," I ordered. The ship trembled. Energy spiked. Project Wraith, an unstable gravity slingshot weapon our fringe engineers had barely finished testing. Council law called it catastrophic. We called it effective. The weapon fired. 1 heartbeat later, the lead destroyer imploded. No explosion, no flame, just silence as it folded into itself, torn apart by its own artificial gravity. The other 2 destroyers scattered in panic. Through the static, I heard the transmission. "All units retreat!" It's Kaiden. It's the Revenant. I grinned. That was fear earned, not by diplomacy, but by survival. Back on the bridge, the crew roared. For the first time since exile, their cheers sounded like victory, not desperation. But beneath the triumph, I felt it. The first crack. Victory breeds ambition. And ambition, in our world, was the slowest poison of all. The cheers faded fast. Victory never lasted long aboard the Revenant. We celebrated in silence, because out here, joy was just a warning that something worse was coming. And I was right. The next day, a message arrived from Silas Tren, a former Earth colonel, now self-proclaimed governor of Dominion Outpost Theta. He wanted a meeting. That word alone made my blood run cold. Silas was the kind of man who smiled while counting knives behind his back. He arrived with 6 armed guards, too many for a friendly conversation. He stepped into the war room, wearing his old Earth uniform like it still meant something. "Commander," he greeted smoothly. "That was a fine show at Orion. Reminded the galaxy we're not just rats in the dark." I didn't offer him a seat. "Say what you came to say." He chuckled, sipping from a flask. "You've given us purpose, Kaiden. Fire. Fear. But fire burns everything, even its keeper." He took a step closer, voice lowering. "Word is you've got plans." "Plans that go beyond defense, beyond the fringe. A return to Earth, maybe." I said nothing. Silence is the only language men like him understand. He nodded, satisfied. "Careful, Commander. The Dominion works because you're not a tyrant. Don't start acting like one I stood." "You think this is a democracy?" He smirked. "No, but it's not a cult either." My patience snapped. I built this Dominion from ash and betrayal. I don't owe speeches or mercy to anyone. For the first time, his mask cracked, just for a heartbeat. The greed in his eyes showed itself, raw, ugly, hungry. He smiled again. "Then I'll keep that in mind." He left. And I knew what was coming. A war from within. That night I sat alone in my quarters, staring at an old patch, a torn Earth Fleet insignia, scorched and faded. It reminded me of what we'd lost, and of what we'd become to survive. The chime broke the silence, Cora's signal. Her face appeared clearer this time, though her eyes were hollowed by exhaustion. "I wasn't supposed to contact you," she said. "They know I warned you." "I'm burned now." I studied her for a long moment. "Why warn me at all?" "Because I saw what the Council really is," she whispered. "They don't make peace. They manufacture obedience." She leaned forward, desperate. "Ree, I want in." I didn't trust her. Not yet. But I needed her. Trust wasn't a currency anymore. Usefulness was. "Then get me Drex," I said. "Your father's alive?" She hesitated. "Barely." "But if you find him, what will you do?" "Make sure he lives long enough to regret it." 2 days later, the first Dominion station went dark. Helen V. At first, we thought it was a system glitch. Then came the reports, lights flickering, airlocks opening at random, crew found gutted from the inside with no footage, no signs of intrusion. I didn't need proof. I'd seen it before. Council shadows, bio-infiltrators, ghosts that slipped between systems and souls alike. They didn't wage wars. They unraveled you. By the third day, 8 stations were gone. No distress beacons, no survivors, just silence. We gathered in the war room. Van paced, Derek's eyes were bloodshot, and even Syra, the calmest officer I had, kept twitching her hand near her sidearm. "We've got a leak," Derek said. "They're hitting too clean." "Someone's feeding them locations." "Silas," Van muttered. "He hasn't reported in since Orion." Syra slammed her fist on the table. "Then we flush him out. Airlock Theta and everyone on it. Make an example." I shook my head. "Not yet. I need proof. We can't afford civil war. Not now." "If you wait too long," Van said, "you'll be giving them a guided tour of the Dominion." He was right. But I'd made that mistake before, punishing the wrong man, killing the innocent one. Not again. Not this time. 2 days later, Cora returned. Her ship was torn to shreds, hull scorched from radiation burns. She stumbled off the ramp half dead but alive, barely. "I found him," she rasped. "Your father?" I asked. She nodded weakly. "He's not the man you remember. The councils turned him into something else. He's talking about something called the Genesis Protocol, a resurrection system. A new kind of war." I stepped closer. "Where?" "An uncharted system," she said. "They call it the Crucible, hidden inside a collapsing nebula. Not on any map I'd heard the whispers. A place where the council broke minds before they broke empires. No one who entered ever came back." Perfect. I needed answers. I needed a target. And I needed every Dominion soldier to see what our war was truly about. We launched for the Crucible 2 days later. The nebula around the Crucible pulsed like a dying heartbeat. Clouds of charged plasma rippled across the viewport. Violent, unpredictable, beautiful in the way only lethal things can be. Cora stood beside me, her face drawn and pale. "No sane fleet comes here," she murmured. "Good thing we're not sane," I replied. The Revenant led 2 Warhawks, the Vengeance and the Iron Howl. Both ships bristled with mismatched weaponry, scavenged from a dozen wars. We weren't elegant. We were a hammer built to break gods. Radiation storms slammed against our shields as we pushed through the void. Most ships would have disintegrated before breaching the first field. We didn't. Van's reckless piloting carved us a narrow corridor through chaos, a tunnel of temporary calm. When the storm broke, we saw it. The Crucible. It wasn't a station. It was a scar in space, black towers twisting in anti-gravity, lattices of metal coiled like ribs around a bleeding star. Ships hung motionless on skeletal docks, drained of life. No signals, no lights, just quiet. "Stealth approach," I ordered. "No comms. No emissions." Derek frowned. "You're going in personally?" I met his eyes. "You think I'd send anyone else to face him?" He didn't argue. The Crucible's docking bay swallowed us whole. Inside, everything was too still, too clean. The air smelled like rot disguised as sterility. Our boots echoed across metal that felt alive underfoot. We moved down long corridors lined with glass cells. Some empty, some not. Inside, things twitched. Once human silhouettes fused with machine graphs, skin crystallized into armor, eyes glowing with vacant light. Failed soldiers, failed gods. The Council's definition of progress. Cora whispered, "What have they done?" "Experimented," I said flatly. "Like they always do." Then we found him. Admiral Drex. The man who once swore humanity would never kneel again, now wired into a throne of metal and veins. Tubes ran from his spine into the walls. His eyes stared blankly, but he was alive. Barely. Cora froze. Dad? I stepped forward. Drex, I said, my voice cutting the silence. His mouth twitched, a faint mechanical rasp escaping. Caden, I knew you'd come. The voice wasn't human. It vibrated through the floor, carried by a synthetic vocalizer built into his chest. His lips never moved. You sold us out, I said. You gave them everything we built. No, he rasped, eyes flickering like dying stars. I gave them what they wanted, so I could take what I needed. His body convulsed, every wire on the throne flaring with energy. The walls around us began to hum. Commander, Van's voice crackled through the comm. The entire station's powering up. You triggered something. I turned back to Drex. What is this? He smiled, a grotesque, lifeless thing. They used me, but I used them too. I am the Crucible now. The chamber shook. Cora screamed as electricity arced through the walls. Drex's veins glowed red, his voice deepening, overlapping with a dozen others. They wanted to create gods, he said. So I became one. Not anymore, I growled, raising my sidearm. He didn't flinch. You can't kill what's already transcended. I pulled the trigger. The shot tore through his skull, and yet the Crucible woke up. Sirens wailed, the floor rippled like liquid metal. A voice, ancient, cold, and layered, echoed through the corridors. Protocol Genesis initiated. Hostile life detected. Adapting. The walls twisted. Cells split open. What crawled out wasn't Drex anymore. It was everything he'd built. Hybrid horrors, half machine, half flesh, moving with eerie precision. Fall back, I shouted. Move! We ran. Corridors collapsed behind us as abominations flooded the halls. Every step felt heavier, every breath a fight against the station's gravity shifting beneath us. Cora stumbled, bleeding from her temple. It's learning, she screamed. Every move we make, it's adapting. We reached the hangar just as the first wave hit. Derek covered us, unloading heavy fire into the swarm. Van's voice cracked over comms. We've got to go, Commander! Now! We barely made it back to the Revenant. As we detached, the Crucible began to unfold. Its outer hull peeled apart like an opening flower, revealing a pulsating core of molten energy. It wasn't chasing us, it was watching. I stared through the viewport as it loomed in the distance, a god reborn in the carcass of a station. Cora sat beside me, pale, trembling. I thought I could save him, she whispered. You did, I said quietly. You gave him peace. She nodded once, tears tracing down her cheeks. Derek entered, face grim. Commander, before Drex died, he transmitted something. A beacon. On council frequencies, destination? I asked. We don't know, he said. But whatever it wasn't a distress call. I looked out at the Crucible one last time. Its light pulsed once, almost like a heartbeat returning. We didn't destroy it, I said softly. Cora looked at me. Then what did we do? I exhaled. We woke it. 2 days after the Crucible incident, the dreams began. At first I thought it was exhaustion, a commander's mind fraying under pressure. But then the reports came in, same words, same visions. Every crew member aboard the Revenant dreamed the same thing. They saw Admiral Drex, alive, whole, smiling, and whispering, "You can still ascend." No one slept after that. Not truly. Every time we closed our eyes, the Crucible was waiting. Shadows of machinery breathing in the dark, the whisper like static at the edge of consciousness. Even Derek, who'd once pulled a knife from his own gut and laughed, started trembling when the lights went out. The Crucible hadn't followed us physically. It didn't need to. It had infected us, through the mind. By the 43rd hour, I'd stopped sleeping altogether. I sat alone in my quarters, staring into the reflection of my sidearm, and for the first time in years, I didn't recognize the man looking back. He looked older, colder, less human. Van broke the silence through comms. "Commander, incoming feed from Outpost Theta." Theta. Silas Trent's stronghold. The screen flickered to life. Static, flicker, blood. Silas stood before a shattered command console, helmet off, eyes wild and glowing faintly red. His voice came through rough, almost reverent. "The Crucible isn't a myth," he said. "It's a message." Behind him, bodies, human ones. Their eyes the same dull red as Drex's had been. "You tried to bury it, Caden," Silas continued, "but you woke something far worse than any of us expected. And now it's spreading. They call themselves the Awakened, and they're not just coming for the Council. They're coming for us." He turned the camera and I saw Dominion soldiers, my soldiers, standing still, silent, their veins glowing faintly under the skin. "They believe in ascension now," Silas said. "You made yourself a god, Caden. Now your followers want to be gods too. The feed cut, not a threat. A warning." Syra slammed her fist against the console. "We should have erased Theta when he started whispering rebellion." "He was never loyal," Derek muttered. "Too much ambition, not enough scars." I didn't respond, because the truth was worse. It wasn't Silas spreading corruption. It was the Crucible, through code, through thought, through faith. I asked quietly, "Where's Cora?" "In medbay," Van said. "Under neural dampeners. She's not well." I went to her. The medbay was silent except for the hum of machinery. Cora lay restrained, body twitching, eyes fluttering beneath her lids. The dampener halo around her head glowed faintly. I leaned closer, listening. She was whispering. "We are the future," she murmured. "Ascend." Fire and code. Break the shell. I tore the neural rig free. Her eyes snapped open, and she screamed. It wasn't pain, it was a language, alien, fractured, vibrating through the walls. She screamed until her voice broke, then went still. When she spoke again, it was barely a whisper. "I saw it," she said. "The end." The real plan. "Tell me," I demanded. "They're not trying to kill us," she said. "They're trying to evolve us." I frowned. "What does that mean?" "Drex was only the prototype," she said shakily. "The Crucible isn't a weapon. It's a forge. It uses pain as the mold, breaks minds, fuses code, rebuilds what's left." I took a step back, realizing what she was saying. "You're saying Silas chose it?" "Yes," she whispered. "He thinks pain is weakness. Emotion is a disease. He believes he's seen the future." Before I could answer, the emergency sirens howled through the ship. "Commander!" Van's voice cut in, panicked. "Virex station just went dark. Our entire foundry world, gone. No distress calls. I ran to the bridge. Derek was already there, rage in his voice. It's spreading, Commander. They're converting our own stations." "Then we strike first," Syra said, jaw tight. "We burn Virex." No survivors, no infection. Van hesitated. "It's a foundry world. Civilians, families." I turned to him, voice like ice. "The Dominion was born from ashes. If Virex is compromised, we burn it. No exceptions." He looked away but didn't argue. Minutes later, our fleet descended upon Virex. From orbit, it looked beautiful. Lights pulsed across the planet's surface in rhythmic waves, synchronized, almost alive. Too perfect. "Visual feed," I ordered. The holo display came online. Silas appeared, standing atop Virex's central command spire. His eyes glowed bright now. Not red from blood, but from something inside. "Caden," he said calmly. "You came. You surrendered your mind," I said. "Now you'll lose your world." He smiled faintly. "I found freedom. The crucible didn't take me. It opened me." Behind him, rows of Dominion soldiers stood motionless, their armor pristine, their faces peaceful, their eyes lit with the same crimson light. "They're all infected," Syra whispered. "No," I said quietly. "They're converted." "Fire all cannons," I ordered. "Full bombardment." Van hesitated. "Commander." I gave an order. He didn't move. "I can't," he said softly. The silence was unbearable. Then Derek stepped forward. "I'll do it." He pressed the command. The sky turned to fire. Virex burned. Cities evaporated in nuclear bloom. Thousands of lives vanished in seconds. And on the hollow feed, Silas never flinched. He just smiled, like we had done exactly what he wanted. Hours later, we sat in the war room. No words, no victory. Cora entered, eyes hollow, voice trembling. "I decoded Drex's signal," she said. "It wasn't a call to the council." I looked up. "Then who?" She hesitated. "It was sent to whatever built the crucible." The air went cold. "You're telling me the council didn't create it?" "No," she said softly. "The crucible is older. Maybe older than the galaxy itself. And now, it knows we're alive." I stared out the viewport into the endless dark. We hadn't just awakened a weapon. We'd drawn the attention of something ancient, something that made gods, and then broke them. The dreams didn't stop after Virex. In fact, they got worse. Every night, it was the same. The crucible, Drex's voice echoing through the hollow of my mind. "You can still ascend," he'd whisper. Sometimes I'd wake in cold sweat, not knowing if I was alive or part of the dream. I wasn't sure anymore. Our victory felt hollow. Every day the Dominion fractured more. Soldiers defected, stations went dark. Whispers of the awakened spread through the fleet like wildfire. They didn't resist us. They followed us, worshipped us. The Revenant drifted through the stars, a ship haunted by its own legends. My crew had changed. There were no more cheers, no more victories, just a quiet, shared knowledge. We weren't fighting the Council anymore. We were fighting for our humanity. The message came through 3 days later. It was from Cora. She didn't say anything at first, just stood there, pale and thin. Her eyes were wide, unfocused. She looked like someone who'd seen a ghost, and then became one. "They're building it," she said finally. I stepped forward. "Building what?" "The seed." I froze. "What seed?" Her hands trembled as she gripped the edge of the console. "It's the original. The one that started all of this. The Crucible's power, the ascension. It was never about us. It was always about them." "The Council?" I asked, voice tight. "No, they're just pawns. The seed, it predates the Council, predates even the first sentient races. It's older than the stars themselves." She shook her head. "They're not trying to conquer the galaxy. They're trying to rewrite it. The seed is their blueprint, everything they've done. It's been leading to this moment. The crucible wasn't the weapon. It was the key. I felt a chill crawl down my spine. "And now it's coming for us." She nodded. "It doesn't need an army. It doesn't need fleets. It only needs you." I stared at her. "What do you mean, me?" "The crucible used your broadcast, Caden," she said softly. "It used your pain, your rage. It's built itself around your image. They think you're the answer, the perfect vessel for the ascension. All of it. The awakened, Silas, the followers. It's all centered on you. Her words hit like a hammer. The seed wasn't just a weapon. It was a living thing, waiting for the right person to channel its power, to complete its purpose. And they thought I was that person. "We can't let it happen," I said, voice grim. "We can't let them become us." But Cora was already shaking her head. "It's too late, Ree. The seed is already inside us, inside you. It's in your mind, in your blood. That's why they're following you. You've been marked." A dark realization hit me. The dreams, the whispers, the seed. It had never left me. It was waiting. "We need to stop it," I said, my voice hardening. "How?" Cora whispered. "You can't kill a god. You can't even fight it." I clenched my fists. "I've been fighting it my whole life. If it's inside me, then I'm the one who has to destroy it. I'm the one who has to end this." But Cora wasn't convinced. She stepped back, her voice quiet. "You're already dead, Ree. You're just too proud to see it." The weight of her words hung heavy between us. The Revenant continued its silent march through the stars, heading toward Hollow Haven, the heart of this new dominion, where the seed was being nurtured. But by then, we all knew the truth. We weren't going to destroy it. We were walking into its mouth, and this time, we weren't going to survive. We reached Hollow Haven 2 days later. The city was still beautiful, still perfect in its design, shiny towers of pristine alloy, sterile streets where even the air seemed too clean to breathe. The people there moved without speaking, their faces emotionless, their eyes empty. They didn't need to say anything. They didn't need to fight us. They already had. Silas met us in the courtyard. His robes shimmered in the light, his once bright eyes now dimmed, the red light inside them replaced with something darker, something colder. He smiled, and there was no warmth in it. "You came," he said softly. I stepped forward, my pulse quickening. "You've built a cult out of my name. Out of my blood." His smile didn't fade. "No, Caden. We've built the future." His voice echoed in my skull. I saw it, felt it. The power of the seed pushing against the walls of my mind, trying to take me. But I wasn't going to let it. Not now. "You think this is salvation?" I growled. "You think this is the way?" Silas didn't flinch. "I'm not here to offer you salvation, Commander. I'm here to offer you perfection." Behind him, his followers, the awakened, watched silently, their eyes glowing faintly red. Their faces were calm, serene, like they had already ascended. "I'll never kneel to this," I spat. "You already have," he whispered. The truth hit harder than any weapon.